What if an airplane could lose half its tail, return with hundreds of bullet holes, or bring its pilot home after a direct hit from anti-aircraft fire? During World War II, stories like these sounded impossible until they happened again and again in one American fighter. German soldiers nicknamed it the Jug because of its enormous size, while its pilots trusted it with their lives more than almost any other aircraft in the sky. It wasn't the fastest to climb or the lightest to maneuver, but it earned a reputation that few fighters ever matched. So how did one massive aircraft become one of the toughest war machines ever built? The answer lies in engineering, courage, and an astonishing ability to refuse to die. By 1940, Europe was already at war, and air combat was evolving at a frightening pace. Fighters needed to fly higher, faster, and farther, while carrying heavier weapons than ever before. Earlier American fighters like the P-40 Warhawk had proven dependable, but they struggled against newer high-performance aircraft, especially at high altitude. As the United States prepared for the possibility of entering the conflict, military planners realized they needed something far more powerful. Republic Aviation's chief designer, Alexander Cardvelli, took an unconventional approach. Instead of building a smaller, lighter fighter, he designed one around the largest and most powerful air-cooled engine available, the Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp. This 18-cylinder radial engine produced around 2,000 horsepower in early versions, giving the new aircraft enormous potential. The result looked almost too big to be a fighter. It weighed nearly twice as much as many of its contemporaries and carried a giant four-bladed propeller driven by an advanced turbo supercharger system that maintained engine performance at high altitude. Many doubted such a heavy aircraft could succeed. But once America entered the war after Pearl Harbor in December 1941, the Thunderbolt would soon prove that size could become one of its greatest strengths. At first glance, the P-47 Thunderbolt seemed almost oversized. Loaded for combat, it could weigh well over 17,000 pounds, making it one of the heaviest single-engine fighters of the entire war. Yet once its powerful engine reached full output, the massive aircraft accelerated with surprising authority. One of its greatest innovations was the turbo supercharger hidden deep inside the rear fuselage. Exhaust gases traveled through long ducts before spinning the turbine, allowing the engine to maintain exceptional power above 30,000 feet. This gave the Thunderbolt an important advantage during bomber escort missions over occupied Europe, where many air battles took place at extreme altitudes. But that wasn't all. The Thunderbolt's rugged construction became legendary. Thick aluminum skin, a heavily built airframe, and the naturally durable radial engine gave it remarkable resistance to battle damage. Unlike liquid-cooled inline engines, which could fail after a single punctured coolant line, the P-47's air-cooled engine often kept running even after taking significant hits. Pilots quickly learned just how much punishment their aircraft could absorb. There are documented accounts of Thunderbolts returning with entire cylinders shot away, wings shredded by cannon shells, and control surfaces barely attached. Some landed safely despite hundreds of bullet holes. Others survived collisions with trees during low-level attacks or managed to fly home on damaged control systems that seemed beyond repair. The enemy quickly realized they were facing an unusually difficult target. German fighter pilots flying aircraft such as the Messerschmitt Bf-109 and Focke-Wulf FW-190 often discovered that shooting down a Thunderbolt required sustained attacks. Even after severe damage, many P-47s simply refused to fall from the sky. While no aircraft was indestructible, the Thunderbolt consistently gave its pilots a better chance of survival. However, there was one major problem. The P-47's immense weight limited its climb rate compared to lighter fighters. Early in the war, some pilots found it less agile during turning fights against experienced German opponents. Attempting to outturn a BF-109 or FW-190 could quickly become dangerous. Fortunately, Thunderbolt pilots learned to fight differently. Rather than engaging in prolonged turning battles, they used speed, altitude, and diving performance. The heavy airframe allowed the P-47 to dive at incredible speeds, well beyond 500 miles per hour in many combat situations. Enemy pilots who tried following often found themselves pushing their own aircraft dangerously close to structural limits. Even more surprising, the Thunderbolt evolved into one of history's most devastating fighter bombers. As Allied air superiority grew in 1944, P-47 squadrons shifted from escort duties to attacking ground targets across occupied Europe. Each aircraft could carry up to 2,500 pounds of bombs, along with rockets, while its 8.5 caliber Browning machine guns delivered overwhelming firepower. Columns of tanks, trains, bridges, supply convoys, artillery positions, and troop concentrations all became targets. During the Normandy campaign after D-Day in June 1944, P-47s flew countless close air support missions, attacking German transportation networks and slowing enemy reinforcements heading toward the beaches. Their ability to survive intense anti-aircraft fire made them especially valuable in these dangerous low-level operations. Pilots often described these missions as some of the most hazardous of the entire war. Flying only a few hundred feet above the ground exposed them to machine guns, rifles, and concentrated flak. Yet the Thunderbolt's robust construction repeatedly brought damaged crews home. One famous pilot, Colonel Francis "Gabby" Gabreski, became America's leading European theater fighter ace while flying the P-47. Credited with 28 aerial victories, Gabreski demonstrated exactly what the aircraft could accomplish in skilled hands. His success helped cement the Thunderbolt's reputation as both a formidable fighter air superiority and a dependable combat partner. What happened next surprised even its critics. By the end of the war, more than 15,600 P-47 Thunderbolts had been built. They flew hundreds of thousands of sorties across Europe, the Mediterranean, and the Pacific. Their pilots claimed thousands of enemy aircraft destroyed in the air, while inflicting enormous damage on transportation, vehicles, and military infrastructure on the ground. Perhaps even more important than those numbers was something impossible to measure: confidence. Pilots climbing into a Thunderbolt knew they were flying an aircraft designed to protect them as much as to destroy the enemy. That confidence affected every mission, especially crossing heavily defended territory where survival often depended on an airplane's ability to endure punishment. The Thunderbolt helped secure Allied air superiority during some of the war's most critical years. It protected bomber formations, attacked enemy supply lines, and provided life-saving support to advancing ground forces. While aircraft like the P-51 Mustang later became famous for long-range escort missions, the Thunderbolt carved out its own legacy through unmatched toughness and versatility. Its influence extended beyond World War II. Engineers continued studying the value of rugged construction, pilot protection, and multi-role capability in later generations of military aircraft. The Thunderbolt proved that a successful fighter didn't need to be the lightest or most elegant. Sometimes, surviving long enough to complete the mission mattered far more. Today, historians remember the P-47 not simply because it was powerful, but because it consistently accomplished tasks that seemed impossible. It defended bombers at high altitude, dominated ground attack missions, and returned home carrying damage that would have destroyed many other aircraft. Above all, it earned the trust of the men who depended on it every single day. The P-47 Thunderbolt wasn't graceful. It wasn't small, and it certainly wasn't easy to overlook. But when the skies filled with enemy fighters and anti-aircraft fire, few aircraft gave their pilots a better chance of coming home. That extraordinary toughness made it one of the greatest combat aircraft of the Second World War. Would you have trusted your life to the legendary P-47 Thunderbolt on a mission deep over occupied Europe? And which iconic World War II aircraft should we explore next? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more incredible World War II history.